Hello, everyone.
Hey
Welcome to the stream.
everyone!
Hi.
Hi, hello, and welcome everyone to another episode of Unity Open Projects: The Journey. This is actually episode 8. Do you believe it? Like always, I have Amel
Hi, everyone.
and Chiro.
Hello.
Hey. So if you are new around here, welcome. Sit tight, and we'll explain this live stream is all about. So Unity Open Project is an initiative that we started when the advocacy team, us, could not come to live events anymore and meet you, the users, to talk about Unity and some Unity features. So we thought that creating something with you, a project that leads to a game that we create where we can meet every 2 weeks and talk about the development, the design, the story, and everything, and that we can conceive together, and you can contribute to it. And so that was the idea behind the Unity Open Project. This is actually the first open project. We started it when we started it exactly?
End of September?
Yeah, 4 months
Last
ago or
year.
something like that. Yeah. And actually we decided about the name with the community, of course. And it was, what was it again? Who knows?
I know.
What is?
I want to see if the chat knows, actually.
Yeah, so we decided with the community, and we had like polling, and the community is the one who proposed most of the names.
Yeah.
And the one that we chose was Chop Chop. Yeah.
Yeah.
People have it right. So yeah, the name was Chop Chop. We also decided about the story, the gameplay with you, everyone, on our forum. So Chop Chop is an action adventure, well, actually a vertical slice of an action adventure where the pig chef called Hamlet, this one that you are seeing here, visits a new town and finds out that a food festival is happening. So the game is the pig chef will start achieving some quests and try to discover the best recipe so that he could wow the legendary chef, the red one that you are seeing here. So don't we have a name for this character? Or
For the legendary chef, not
Yeah.
really.
Not
We've
really?
been calling it Fry King until now, as you know. But I don't know. Do people have a name in the chat? We're still looking for suggestions and yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to propose a name or add a feature or give your feedback or just check how this is all done or anything, we have 3 places you can go, where there are many more, but 3 main places where you can go. The first one is Codex. Oh, okay. The first one is
It's
okay,
Codex.
the
It's
first
Codex.
one is Codex. Okay. So the first one is Codex. Here you can find the roadmap and some informations about the current tasks. So this is composed of different decks, like you can see here. And each deck will contain a card with a description of the task that the cards contain. A logo on that card will show you if someone is already working on this task or not. If it's a black one, it's the Unity team that is working on it. If it's a blue one, that means that the community is working on it. And if there is no logo, then it's up for grabs and anyone can do it.
And if it's my face, I'm working on it, so don't touch it. Don't you dare, like this one.
Just remember that even if it's assigned to anyone, you can open the card and you will see there is a link to the thread. So can we click on one of the threads, Chiro? can we open one card and click on one? So yeah. So if you open the thread, I was looking at the YouTube channel. That's why I didn't see it. So if you click on one of the links, you will go to the threads, to the forums, and you can participate in the discussion or bring some improvements or anything. So the forum is actually where you can find all the information about that particular task. Then once it's done, you can also find, I think in the cards, in the forums and everywhere, you can find the link to the GitHub. So if we go to the GitHub, we can have access to the project. This is our project. This is where it lives. You can download it. You can have a pull. You can make a pull request and work on a new feature, fix a bug, or anything actually that you want.
Or report an issue as well.
Yeah,
so if
exactly.
you're not necessarily like a coder, or you don't have any programming skills, so maybe you don't feel confident, you can always like help us with finding issues. The very important thing I will say, Chema, and then I'll give you back the word. The important thing when you report an issue is the details. How did you get there? That's the most important thing. How can we reproduce it? And then it's going to be a really useful bug report.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and if you go to the open project, you can see that we have a lot of pull requests already opened. You can either comment on them, review them if you want, if you feel like it. We, the team, go on there and try to, what do we do exactly?
What do we do exactly? That's a good question, Chema.
We read all your pull requests and add them to the project. If it's something that is stable, we will add it to main. But if we are working on it, we will wait until it's fixed, and then we will add it to main. So yeah, I think that's what we will do.
But slowly, we are pulling in so many things. As you can see here, there's 20 open pull requests, but we have closed 246. Which, if I search by merged, you're gonna see how many we actually merged. 149, and this 149 changes come from, you see here on the homepage, 73 contributors. So if you take us out and Andy, there's 69 people that actually contributed to this project already. It's quite cool.
Yeah, actually. But not only in the Git. Like there are some people that contributed in the forums, and those are also contributors. So keep it up, guys. Definitely, we're happy to have you all.
We kind of keep track of all the names of all the people. We recognize every contribution, even though it's not just going through GitHub. So thank you so much. There's a couple of people that are actually posting some super interesting concept art on the forums, story, just generally story. Yeah. And please, the name for the chef. Like if you can name this this guy here to the right, we'll be very grateful. I mean, we had some suggestions, but I need to feel, I need to feel it inside me. I need to
So these are the places where you can find us. We have also a wiki in the GitHub that we are adding informations to. Currently, I think that we have most of the systems in there, but we are adding and we are updating on the go. We also have the devlogs that are, I think we have 4 now, Ciro?
Three for now.
Three devlogs. So we have the one for the script, for the scriptable objects, another one for the inputs, and the last one for the shader graph.
Yeah, definitely.
So those are actually, the devlogs are about one feature in particular, and not like these live stream where we talk about where we are in the project and present a system that we are working on or that the community presented. And actually in the journey, we explain everything that is happening in the project. In the devlogs, we just focus on one feature and we talk about it in details. And those features are actually on 2020.2, I think. And you can find them as well in GitHub if you want to work on the project in that version, because currently we are working on the latest long-term support version of Unity.
Let me just show the branches since you mentioned them.
Yeah.
So as you said, like the latest, we're using the latest LTS 19.4, and it's on main, right? It's on the branch main. And then we have these branches called devlogs 1, 2, and 3. They are the ones where you will find these demos, which are like a little bit more compact, and they have been migrated to newer versions of Unity. So for instance, this one I think is on 2021.1. So we try to upgrade them to the very latest available at a certain point.
That's awesome.
So actually, one question. We said like number 1 was on toon shading, number 2 was on scriptable objects, number 3 was on input system. What would you like the next devlogs to be about? I'm gonna launch this question in the chat, and I'm gonna type it as well. Yeah, I mean, we have a bit of a plan. We have topics in mind, but it would be nice to hear what you think would be cool to learn, or what you think we should kind of like revisit in the project, right? That it was not super clear, and you would like to know how we did something or why we did something. That's what the devlogs are about.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about this, do you people want to know what we did in the previous episodes?
There's probably a little delay in the chat, but one second. I'm reading some stuff. I'm reading right. Somebody says errors. I don't know if that was a reply to the question.
Oh, wow, okay.
But it's a good topic. I don't know if they mean bugs, if they mean like code errors. It's an interesting topic. Maybe provide some more details so we can, because the chat is recorded anyway, so we can read it later. Somebody says code structure. Somebody says animations with effects. That's actually something we have in mind.
Okay.
Unity recorder. The loader machine structure.
Someone said I could use a recap from last episode. Where it's coming.
It's coming in just a second. And by the way, today we're gonna also show you something cool which we've never shown. Actually, the music stopped, and that reminded me of just about this topic. We are going to reveal some of the music in the game. So we're working with a contractor for some music, and we're also going to open up the task of music to the community. But for now, we have some themes coming in, and we're going to show you play some of them for you during the episode. We have 3 of them, so if you stay tuned, you're going to listen to them, and then you're going to see them in the project in a few days, implemented.
I'm excited about this.
yeah, I'm very excited. They're actually really good themes. We don't have the main theme, but we have 3 locations. We have, I'm gonna spoil, the beach, the forest, and the glade. So if you're curious about the music in these locations, stick around. Chema, you were saying, what are we doing now?
Yeah, so let's talk about what we did in the previous episode, because I remind you this is the 8th episode, and this is so huge, guys. So let's have what we did last week.
Yes.
So in the first episode, actually, I talked about the toon shading. It was the first topic we touched on, and we were basically talking about how we defined the look of the game, the cartoony look that we're using with the cartoon shader and the outline. In the second episode,
yes, we have introduced the scriptable object events to create a powerful system that we decided to implement because we wanted to avoid using singletons. And with the system, we have shown how we can raise event without and with parameters like the scene loading system.
Yeah, we also talked about the UI wireframing, and we made some cute diagrams. and to know how the game will feel and how every scene will go from one to the other. And we improved it week by week with the community.
And I touched on the state machine, which was one of our first big community contributions, which is basically what powers our characters. So it's a finite state machine. It's really using scriptable objects to the max, and we're still working on it, but yeah, it's one of our backbones. Episode 3.
In the episode 3, we talked about the game design and the progression and how we are seeing our game look like. So we have like quests and to go from one to the other and talk with the characters and things like that. So if you want more, just go back to that episode.
And we have also introduced the dialogue and cutscene systems, and we have shown how to manage them and how to request to start a cutscene or a dialogue passing by the timeline that speaks with the system to request the lines.
And with that, we touched on how to create a custom timeline track. You're going to find an example in the project if you want. I also talked about the input system for the first time. As you can see here, we were very at the beginning of implementing it, but it's interesting to see how you manage the input action maps. In episode 4, we had a guest, Andy, but I started with the audio system. So I covered the audio system, which is basically going to power all the audio events in the game and kind of like route the audio around and send it to a manager, which will play obviously through the audio mixer that you can see here in the image. And then Andy made his contribution and talked about it, which was these two shaders, one for tinting characters, and you can see the crazy stuff that he demonstrated with it, and one for tinting scenery and in a random way.
In the episode 5, we actually talked about the inventory system, and we integrated the inventory system that the community created to our project.
And then we have introduced the word interaction system to allow us to perform 3 possible interactions: the pickup, cooking, and talking.
And then I touched on some tricks, I would say, not necessarily something that we use in this project yet, but some tricks that you can perform with the new prefab system and with the variants. And the demo is quite funny, actually, because it failed at some point, so I really encourage you to go to episode 5 and watch me fail. I'm all up for it, you know. Episode 6.
Episode 6, we talked about
the scenery architecture. So we have introduced major changes to the scenery architecture, and we have separate managers that are required for different menus and locations by using what we call the persistent manager scene and the gameplay scene.
And I talked about the animation rigging, which is a package which we introduced in the game to make our animations more interesting and possibly not broken like the one you're seeing here on screen. Episode 7, last animation. Episode.
Yeah, in the last episode, we talked about the quest system. We started it in the episode 6, but then we implemented it and we talked about it here. We talked also about the dialogue system, and because the quest system is based on that. And then we talked about the localization package and how to use it to import from the Excel sheet that we have on Drive directly in our project.
And we have also had a first glance about the combat system, and we went through the different changes that would be made in the future. And today we are in the future and we are going to talk about those changes.
And finally, I shown a little bit, kind of like a preview of the world building and the white boxing that we've done and how it's going to be evolving into like the final scenes that we have in the game and how we're going to use, how do you call them? Skyboxes. Skyboxes? I'm lost. Skyboxes, right? Yeah, anyway, those things. Yeah. You know, the things that like...
The things, those things.
Oh, good.
So yeah, welcome to the future of the past.
I think you can appreciate how this recap is always live and and how we kind of like improvise every time, and every time is different. Like one time Amel forgets to talk.
I think this makes the charm of this live stream. It's because we can have hiccups. We can, because we are live, we are with you guys. So if you have any questions or any comment or anything, please put it in the chat, and we are here to answer you.
Yes.
Yeah. And actually, somebody says, damn, I missed a lot. You did, but there's still a lot to go to do. There's still a long time to go. So what we would suggest is, sure, you can watch like the past live streams. You can like scroll through very quickly. We have how do you call them, chapters on the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So you can literally jump to different chapters and catch up with whatever topic you feel interesting. One thing that I wanted to show, Chema, which we forgot to mention actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The wiki.
Yeah.
Oh no, I talked about
Chema.
it, but we didn't show it yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you go to the repo, right, and from like the main page, for example, even whatever branch, you don't need to be on main. But if you go here on wiki, you'll find like a small wiki which guides you through some of the most important parts of the architecture of the project. So if you're catching up, I would really suggest going here and check out how the project is structured. There's plenty of text data and also like more links, not on this particular page, but sometimes there's more links at the bottom. You can find one like this one with more information, sending you to like devlogs or live streams. So it's all connected and you can find information. And if you can't, just come to the forums and ask. Find the appropriate thread. If there's no thread, feel free to open a new one to ask a question. It's not like we're like you see all these tags here official, but of course we have also like threads like this super nice one. Actually, I wanna highlight it for a second, which are about like meta things, let's say. So here people are like introducing themselves, and it's super nice to discover like who are the people on this project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it for me. That's my ad. Let's see. Let's read some chat.
Someone asked, what is the best way to manage different cameras UI between scenes? I think we're talking about this when we talked about the scene hierarchy, because we have different scenes and each one has different elements, and the discussion between the scenes is using the events. So if you want, just go back to that episode. Do you remember, Amel, which episode it was? I think it was 5.
The architecture,
sure.
I think 5 or 6 maybe. The one just before the last one, so 6 maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to know more about the event system that we are using, you can watch a devlog. And we have a devlog about the scriptable objects and how we are using it for the events.
Yeah, definitely. Somebody's asking how to get this toon shader. Well, you can just grab it from the project, really. This project is open source, so you can grab it from the repository. And again, if you wanna see it again, it's here. So as you can see, you just like literally Google Unity Open Project, you're gonna find it, or the link is in the description actually. So you can steal it from the repository if you want.
Yeah, and again, if you want to know more about that shader, you can see it in the devlog or in the first episode.
Yes.
How do you get game ideas? Well, the community had this idea, I think.
Did they?
We started with
No, you're right.
concept art, but the community found the idea about this game.
Actually, let me show you the concept art. Do I have the video of the concept art?
Yeah, the one.
I think so, yeah. What in loading approach did you take? I don't remember. I think this is for someone else.
That's the concept art. This is the concept art that we started with when we were coming up with the project. As you can see, it's not much. Like the story wasn't there. We just had this idea of this adventurous pig chef, and then we proceeded in creating like some NPCs, I would say, and then this one NPC, which is the bard hair, which you can see here, the little bunny. Then some enemies, let's say some environmental enemies. Yeah, that was the idea. But then we developed the story in the forums almost. was the
with the community. It was a big week where we had many back and forth with the community to talk about the story and then decide about the title.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Amel, do you wanna?
Yes. Yeah, shall we start, I would say, the new updates and giving you some new updates about what we have talked about in the last episode, which is the combat system. But we have shown that some things were not really optimized and were not really possible to reuse. And in this episode, we have now more or less the final combat system. So we wanted to talk about it, to introduce the changes that we made and why we made them, because I think we always prefer to share with you guys the discussions that we have behind the scenes, so you can get inspired for your games and then you can use it also in your games if you want. So I'm gonna start by sharing my screen and let's actually press play and start testing how it looks in the end. Now, in terms of the combat, it didn't really change compared to the last time, but let's try again. So here we are trying to kill plant critter. Okay, done. That was easy.
I love the placeholders.
Yeah, I think I'm like, time to update them.
Yeah, I was telling Chema this morning, like, should we change the placeholders for the live stream? And then she was like, no, let's keep them as placeholders. And I was like, okay. Fine.
Okay, I died.
No, you died. No.
What is this? Dark Souls? It's hard sometimes to win. That was I was practicing before the stream to not lose this way, and I just lost this way.
I think the actually the slime critter, the one
they're so strong.
Yeah, but there's the one reason why they're so strong. The reason
they
is because
show no mercy.
No, not because of that. Because they jump inside you basically. So when you attack, the attack doesn't land anymore. The plant stays on the spot. So this is something we need to fix actually. So you can see how on the first attack the slime is now inside the player, and that's we should try to make sure that it doesn't, because there's actually a bug connected to it.
Yeah, true.
Can you show it? It's actually quite fun. You know which one?
Yeah. When they push us, right?
When he pushes you into the wall, yes.
Yeah, let me go closer now. So
this is just to show like how the game looks like it's coming along well, but there's so much stuff left to do. It's not pushing you anymore.
No, it's killing instead.
Okay, maybe we fix the bug.
No, at some point, yeah, I'm not sure actually, because
I think you have to be closer to the wall.
Let me.
Maybe the bug is fixed.
I'm ready to die. No, not yet. No. Okay, it was almost.
Cool. Yeah. I guess the bug is fixed,
I guess, but one update is now when we get hit, which we didn't have the last time, so you can see this cute animation. It's so funny, his face, I like it. And then we will see again how the character dies So this one part of the combat, I would say, we didn't have it the last time. And the reason why we now have it is because we allowed to reuse what we have made for the critters for the pig chef as well. So I'm gonna show you the diagrams of what we have here.
Amel, sorry to interrupt, but this stuff needs to be done, like when it happens. I have breaking news. We need to change the name of the game. It needs to be called Pork Souls. So you show the diagram. In the meantime, I rename like everything, like the repo, like the README. So just please keep going.
I think so. I mean, considering the gameplay that we just saw, I think that fits better as a name.
I think it was a great suggestion, and now I regret the name. But yeah, Pork Souls. I'm gonna remember it. Maybe we can make like an edition, like a Japanese edition or something and we change the title. We make another SKU or whatever they're called.
And then you put the health for the slime critters like 1000 and then 10 for the pig chef.
Yeah, like a hard version.
Yeah, anyway, we should do this.
All yours.
So now going back to the combat system, I have put a lineup, I would say, of the different characters that are involved in the combat. So we have the pig chef attacking the different critters and the critters attacking the pig chef back. So As you can notice, we have the collider for all of them to detect the collisions, and when we have the state machine. So the state machine, as a reminder, is something we have in the project, and it's a community contribution that we later improved throughout the whole project. So this is a way to basically move from one state to another. So for instance, from idle to jump and so on. So we are not really going in details in that. And if you are not familiar with it, or you joined the stream for the first time, don't worry, you don't need to know much details about it. All you need to know is that this thing is controlling the different states in the game for the different characters. So we are reusing the state machine to create different tables. So we have one for the plant critter and one for the slime critter. And this is actually a change from the last episode, because the last time we were using the same state machine for all the critters, but then we are like, the plant critters don't really move, and it's not really an optimized way of putting like the move speed to 0 to avoid, moving to that state. Literally, we have like a new state for the plant critters that they will never enter. So that's why we thought it's better to separate the plant critters and the slime critters in two different tables. Now, of course,
somebody's asking if you can zoom a little bit on the graph.
Sorry.
I guess they're on the phone or something, but it's good to the text can be pretty small.
Yeah, sorry. I was like trying to put them parallel, but I think I can go right and left a little bit so we can see them. And so if we notice here, we have the protagonist, which is the script that is specific to the pig chef, and then we have the similar one for the critters, which is called critter, that you can see for both of the characters. And then we can notice that this line we have attacker for the 3 characters and damageable for the 3 characters. And if you remember, this is the big change and refactoring from the last time. The last time we had the critter that embodies all the code for the attack, for the damage, for everything. And that was a bit hard to reuse. You can literally not reuse it if it's in one script. If we want to do the attack and damage for Big Chef, then we need to start from scratch. That's why we decided to expose them like separately, and then we can see them this way as different mono behaviors. Now I'm going to move to the graph that is similar to this one, just here. But in this one, you can notice that I'm highlighting the common part between all those different characters that are fighting. So here you can really see the advantage of reusing those mono behaviors for the different characters. And then we have things that are specific to the character. For instance, here the main character has a character controller. He also has the interaction manager. This is something we talked about in the previous episodes, and you can notice that now it's on the parent game object, which is the pig chef, but we have the interaction detector that is now staying as a child game object that has the box collider that will detect the trigger. And you can see that we have this zone trigger controller. This is something also as part of the combat community contribution from Trevize. And Trevize, I saw that you said in the chat that finally you can watch us live because we changed the time. So I'm happy. And if you are still here, hello. Thanks for this amazing contribution. So as I said, the zone trigger controller is a generic class that was created by Trevize to allow us to detect when we enter a trigger and when we leave the trigger. And you can also specify which layers you want to use or ignore. And this, because we are using it as well in the interaction manager, it's also really cool to be able to reuse it here for the interaction detector box collider. And now if we go back to the 2 critters that we have 2 trigger zones, one for the alert, so one when we see that the main character is getting closer, and one when the main character is actually hitting us or super close to us where we can attack them. So these are the 2 different zones, and they are using this zone trigger controller again. And you can notice that the slime critter has 2 new additions. One is the nav mesh agent, because he moves around. And if you're not very familiar with this, you can watch episode 7. We have talked about nav mesh agent and how to bake the nav mesh on the map, so you can use it in your game. And then we have the slime critter attack, and this one was what was producing that pushing effect when the character gets closer to the slime critter. Now, once we have this big picture, I would say, of the different components, we are going to see them in the editor. But before that, I just wanted to show what these attacker and damageable mono behaviors are doing. So the attacker is basically speaking with an attack mono behavior that is attached to an attack box game object. And this is where we actually detect this attack. And we are reading the attack config SO. This basically tells us how the different configuration for the attack. And then the damageable, in the other hand, this basically is attached to everything that we can damage. So the different creatures, the character can be damaged as well. Later, when we are going to add pots or barrels that we can crack or we can explode, then they are going to be also damageable, and they are going to be using this same mono behavior. So you can see that's really, really super easy to reuse. So here we are reading 3 scriptable objects and 1 mono behavior. The first one is the health config, because if you will get damaged, you will probably have a health. And then you will have a get hit effect. And you will also have a droppable reward, because you will potentially give a reward if you are getting killed, except for the pig chef, who is the only exception where the creatures don't really get a reward when they attack him. And that way we can just put that array to 0 for this case. And we have also the main mesh renderer that is used to specify which mesh renderer we are using for the damageable object. And now I think it's time to go back to the editor and see all those different changes. So if I click on the plant creator, we can notice here that we have the state machine mono behavior that I was talking about, and it's referring to the plant creator table. And then we have the creator script, and we have the attacker and the damageable. We have the same for the slime creator, so we can see that it's really super powerful to reuse the same scriptable objects, mono behaviors and scriptable objects for the config. And let me get the character actually in the scene. So I'm going to go to prefabs, characters, big chef. Yeah, let's drag and drop him.
So while you do it, one of the topics that I wanted to touch on in one of the devlogs, I don't know if it's a good idea, was exactly what Amel is showing. Amel, if you can show the inspector of one of these characters, you can see how many components are interacting with each other and are creating the final behavior. So I think it's interesting to see what basically goes into making a character. Is not just the graphic, is not just the logic, is not just the animation, but it's all of these things speaking together and interacting together to create like the final behavior and to make it interact with other parts of the game and other parts of the game world, if you want. So yeah, that's one idea for a future devlog. I don't know if people will like that. If you would like that, tell us in the chat, and we'll consider that. Cool. Sorry. Back to you.
It's as you said, Ciro, this is really super powerful, and I think it's really good to be able to use different mono behaviors, unify a little bit like the architecture, I would say. So here we can see, as I said, for the pig chef, so it's using exactly the same architecture, I would say. And then, of course, it has things that are specific to the protagonist with this protagonist script, which is similar to the creator script that we have here. I'm not really going in depth inside the code, but you can, guys, again, this is an open project. You can get it from the Unity GitHub, and you can have a look there, and feel free to jump in one of the threads and ask all the questions that you have, or ask them now also in the chat. We will be happy to answer. So here, to give just an example of the different config SO, let's click on the basic health. So you can see that the basic health is 20. We have also the elite health that is used for the slime, I think. So this is value 30. We have the one that is for the player. The player only has 20. And we have also the attack. So you can see the attack strength and the attack reload duration. So the elite is faster than the basic attack one. You can see that the reload is slower for the basic attack, and the attack strength is slow, is more reduced. So you can see that with this, this is attack config SO. You can just do right click and create your own configuration, and then just drag and drop it to any kind of creatures that you will add in the game. And then we have also for the droppable. So let's click on basic rewards. So here we have a size of 2 elements. We have the apple and we have the banana. You can see that we have no drop, which is the one that we use when we get killed, basically when the main character gets killed by the creatures, because we don't want to give reward to slime creatures or plant creatures. And then we have also the get hit effect. So we have the red one and we have the yellow one, and we can create any other type of getting heat effect if we want. In terms of the attack, if I click on this attack box that is referenced there, we can see the basic attack config that I was just showing here in the list of the scriptable objects. So now once we have this, I wanted to quickly talk about something actually interesting, but before that, this is also interesting. I wanted to show the transition tables for the plant critter and the slime critter and how we have separated them. So you can see that before they were unified because we had a lot of things in common, but then again, as I said, we thought that we have this roaming state, which we don't have for the plant critter. So if I click on the plant critter, we have the idle, alert, fighting, attack, all of the ones that we have also for the slime critter, except the roaming. And then the roaming is basically what allows the slime critter to move around in the map when we start the game. And this is really super cool and super powerful because it's integrated fully inside the state machine, but we can also reuse it later for the different NPCs.
Amel, what is this tool that you're showing us?
Yeah, so this is
some people might be wondering, like, what is that thing actually?
Yeah, so this is the state machine that I mentioned that allow us to move from one state to another. We have showed it previously for the Pig Chef. You can see that we have the idle, walking, jump, all the different states that the character can enter. But we also have one for the slime critter and one for the plant critters. And it's also super cool because we can use this, different tables and transition table using this same state machine. So that's really cool. Do we have any question about this until now?
There's actually one interesting question. Sorry, I was just midway through typing an answer. And there we go. Somebody, Avatar K0, who's also one of the contributors, I remember him from the forum, or her from the forums, was asking, isn't it bad to put multiple components, multiple mono behaviors on one game object? I assume they ask for performance as usual. Would you want to give your opinion, or should I?
Yeah, I will let you answer. No, go on.
So, I mean, as usual, it depends, right? As usual. What is bad about it? Yes, they use more memory for sure. If they have stuff, for example, in the update, they will also use performance like literally per frame, right? So if you have multiple components, Unity needs to call the update on all of them. So that has a cost, and it's a bigger cost than if we were to consolidate all the code in one component. I don't think we use the update in many of those. We're using them to bounce like messages and data around, and those messages only happen like every few seconds, or so there's no like things that happen per frame. In any case, I would say sure, we could make a lot of work and consolidate all of them into one component, but then we will lose some flexibility. So it's an act of balance between, like, as Amel said, for example, being able to recycle what's a component that they share? The damageable, right?
Yeah, damageable or attacker, yeah.
The attacker one. So those are components that we use both on the character and on the critters. And the other way would just to be like having like one monolithic component and maybe inheriting like two specialization, like protagonist and enemy or something, which is a classic pattern, but it's really not much Unity. And in Unity we have like what is called composition instead of inheritance, right? So we use components to compose an object into what it is. Mm-hmm. So that's my answer, Avatar K0.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chiro, as well. Like, for me, the fact that we can, if sometimes we want to separate the scripts, because this will allow us to like gain from the other side, like being able to attach them to different and multiple game objects, it should be good to do that. And as you said, especially if you don't have things in the update function, for instance, that would be okay, which is the case for us in this example.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah, so as I said, some people are asking also, how do we get that window? So if we go to chop transition table editor, you can see the window for the state machine. And again, this is a community contribution that we had in the game. So you can go to the Git repository and you can get this state machine if you want to try it and see more about it. So what I wanted to mention here is the fact that we have the roaming, which allow us to see the slime critter moving around in the map, and the fact that it is fully integrated inside the state machine. And in this case, we also want to do something similar to this for the NPCs later. So if I do this, we can actually I'm going to go to the action, and we can go to here you can see the roaming speed and the roaming distance, and you can actually play around with these values if you want to have a different distance or a different speed. And for this roaming around for the character, for now the character, when we press play, actually let me press play, we can see that, oh, I need to disable the, okay, it's okay, we have two peak chefs now in them. So yeah, we can see that the character is moving around, and here we can specify the roaming speed and we can specify the roaming distance. And then we want to use this letter for the NPCs as well. And we want to add another method to allow us to also move not only around the radius or a distance, but also from one waypoint to another. And I think, Ciro, you have added already a card for this in Codex, and we opened the thread in the forum, right?
Yes, it's there.
Yeah. So we can, guys, get started if you want for that. I just wanted to show an example of how we visualize this. So I'm going to use something from the state machine, but it doesn't mean that we are going to use it, just to show you a visual, I would say, representation of how we imagine the waypoints later. So you can see that here we have this Cinemachine track, the dolly track that we use in Cinemachine for those who are familiar with the package. If you're not familiar, don't worry, it's just a path that the camera usually follows that has multiple waypoints. And here you can see that we can do plus to add another position. So we can do this, for instance. We don't want to support the smooth path in our case, so we can literally put this to 1, for the loosen. And it's going to be more or less something like this. So we can visualize those waypoints, we can move them around, we can make them looped, that would be cool. So we have, for instance, a character, an NPC character moving from one point to another. It could be even just 2 points if it's like one specific path and they will patrol like back and forth between those different points. So this is just a visualization. For us, I think we are not really using the dolly track from the Cinemachine because this is more like specific to the camera use. But you can, of course, get inspired from the way that we do this, and you can make it for this system that we are trying to implement. We can also make a custom inspector, so we can choose if we want to have an array of different waypoints or if we want to have just a radius to move around. And in that case, we will have only a float value instead of an array. Okay, so that was a small parenthesis in terms of how we can, again, reuse things to move forward for the NPCs.
And just as Amel mentioned, you can find the card, as she said, like on the roadmap. So if you go to the roadmap on Codex, which is one of the 3 locations of this project, under the code deck, you will find like NPC Vomir Nav Mesh, and this is the thing that she was referring to, so pathway component. So there's a bit of explanation of how we imagine it. We always encourage you to bring this thing to the forum, so there's a link to the navigation thread. You go there, and you can like discuss how the thing should be working and how you imagine it being implemented.
Yes, totally. And now, after showing these things, I wanted to bring up 2 small discussions, not small actually, they might be considered big, discussions that we had around the forum and around the GitHub repository in terms of the PRs. So when Trevis opened the PR for the combat system and how the character now, the Peak Chef, can attack the critters, he has used a small, I would say, hack. I can actually show the code. So here you can see that in the code that he has shown, he used a small hack to force the collider to exit. And before, the way it was done, the only way to detect if the character is in our attack zone or in our alert zone, I'm going to show it actually here. If we go to the plant critter, so we have two colliders here. We have the trigger alert zone, and then we have the trigger for attack zone. And the only way to know in which state we are, it was to rely on those triggers. And that's why sometimes if the critter is attacking the character, if the character dies, we will still see the animation of the critter attacking playing. And this is not a behavior that we want. So that's why Trevis used this hack to force the character to move out before it being destroyed, to move out from the collider so we can move to the idle state back. And we don't see that behavior of the character attacking a died, a character who died, basically. So that's why we now added what we called another condition. So if you remember when I showed earlier the transition tables, to move, I showed the different states, but to move from one state to another, you need to have certain conditions that are met. So let's say I am in the maybe alert and I'm moving to fighting. I need to make sure that the character is not dead. So we created this new condition called is target dead. And this is a way to know that the object that is in the collider, are they still alive so we can kill them, right? So this is a new condition that we have added, and this was a way to solve this discussion that was going around. Thank you all for giving ideas and for contributing to this one. And then another thing that I also wanted to highlight was around the interaction manager. And I'm going to go back to the PicChef. So as I said, now the interaction manager is on the parent game object. And if I open the script, we have this good contribution from Alexander. Thanks, Alexander, if you are watching us or if you are watching the replay. So we have this script that we had before. And we had a small issue of when we pick up an object, even sometimes when we don't enter the state and we don't play the animation, we still had the object picked up. So there was no synchronization, I would say, between the animation and actually the raise of the pickup of the object. So the way that we solved this, we have like two different states, if you want. We have on interaction button press, so when the thing actually happens. And then we have also when we have the potential interaction. And you can notice that we have it for instance, the cook, we raise the cooking event. For the talk, we're going to add also later once we merge the quest system in the main branch. And then we say here, Ciro, you put this comment of, we don't need to do it for the pickup because we are doing this through the animation clip.
And if I
go, yeah, you wrote this comment.
I don't know if it's readable, actually. It's a bit small on the screen if you want to zoom in. I don't know if you can. Don't worry about closing those. Oh, yeah. I remember. So basically the three actions that you can perform work in a different way, right? Yeah.
So except for the collect, which is the one that we use when we pick up, we don't really need to use it here. We need to use it with the animation. And if I go on the top of the script, you will see that I have a method called collect, but it seems like this collect method is not used in the script, but that's not true. I mean, it's not used in the script, but it's used in the animation events. And let me actually show this. If I go to the arts folder.
Yeah, this is actually pretty important because it can be a very kind of like invisible thing. And it's actually a bit of a downside in Unity, but something you can deal with. That, as you said, like Visual Studio doesn't know that function is being called because it's being called by
the events from the animation clip. So if I go to the animation clip here, the one that we are using is collect. Let's go to the bottom. Let me show the animation. We can play it. Okay. And here, if I go to events, you can see that I have this collect function here called, and you can see that the moment, so if I do this, we can actually move back. So at exactly this moment, when we are actually picking up the object for real, here the collect function is called. And when the collect function is called, we are actually erasing the pickup event. And now we don't have the problem of synchronization that we had before, where we had the pickup event raised, but we don't really see the animation. So this is solved with this powerful event system in the animation clip So I think this is a tip that you guys can use in your projects as well to make sure that the action is super synchronized with the animation.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and that basically allows you. Actually, if you show Amel, there's two events, right? You see collect. There's another one just next to it. It's called play.
Yes.
It's a bit hard to. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Play object pickup.
Yes.
I will.
And that's basically the sound. So I had to kind of like separate them. You can make the window bigger if you wanna.
Oh, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another event which is playing the sound of when the character picks up the thing, basically, which is in another script. I want to mention one little limitation of this system is that the function being called needs to be on the root of the object where the animator sits. And that's why we have it in the interaction. We moved the interaction manager to the root of the object. Can you show again where it is on the prefab?
So if I go to pchef, you can see that now we have the interaction on the parent game object.
Yeah, and there's another one up if you go up for the sounds, which is called
the protagonist audio.
Protagonist audio, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So those two contain the functions that the animation is calling exactly like at that specific frame, and they need to be on the root of the character.
Totally. Yeah.
Cool.
So these were like I would say conversations that were going on in the GitHub repository through the comments for the PRs or issues opened, and also in the forums. And I thought that these two at least are really super interesting, and it's really something you can encounter in your own project when you are working, and it could be like a good way to think of how we can solve them in Unity Open Project, but also in your own game if you want to use that later. So yeah, do you have any other questions, Ciro, from the chat maybe related to this?
No, I'm seeing one question. Somebody was asking, I don't quite catch that. Are those Unity events or C# events? They are called animation events, I think. And they are kind of like a special function, a special thing that is only Unity. So it's not like in C# that would be just a function, right? But what calls it is this magic connection that I don't know if it's a message, very much like start or update in that sense. I don't know how it's done. But as you can see, Amel, if you show Visual Studio again.
Yes. So if we show...
Visual Studio has no understanding that anyone is calling, right? So it says 0 references, as you can see.
Yeah, true.
But I left the comment just there, called midway through the animation clip, exactly because of this reason, because we wanted to make it clear that was the case.
That was used somewhere, yeah.
Okay, so they're asking, no, I meant the .raise event syntax.
Are they talking about the raise event for the object pickup? This line?
Probably, yes. You want to explain?
So this is something we have been introducing. I would say mostly we talk about it in the different episodes because we use this event system all over the project. But basically, this is a way to broadcast an event throughout the game to say, okay, now we are raising the event to pick up an object, and we pass the current item that we picked up as a parameter, and then we will have listeners that are listening to that same event, and they will do other things when they hear that event. So in this example, the object pickup, this will be inventory manager will be listening to it and will actually add that picked up object to the inventory. And now you wanna show the class 1 second of object pickup of the channel? Yeah, so if I go to the item event channel, and let me open it actually here. Yeah, so here we can see that we have the item passed as parameter, and then we have, we make sure that the event exists, and then we can invoke it using the item as parameter. Yeah, and we use this as a scriptable object, as Amel said. Yeah. So basically, game objects would link to it and broadcast on that scriptable object, which is the way we used to connect to objects in different scenes. And actually, we dedicated a whole devlog to this. So if you look for the devlog number 2, is all dedicated to scriptable objects, game architecture, let's say. True. Cool. Are you done, Amel? Are you? Yeah, I guess we have shown all the updates, I think, in terms of combat.
Or should I give you back the screen?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions? Maybe I can answer them. Otherwise,
Yes,
maybe
if you have questions, ask them now, and I'll put a specific video to to ask you questions.
This is the question video.
This is the question video, so it's question time.
Yeah.
So if you have
Ask
a question,
away.
the pig is now ready for you to answer your Unity questions. Somebody was asking actually about the license for the project. They said, "What's the license of the project?" The license is Apache 2.0, so it's a classic like open source license, which let's stop with the big, which allows you basically to take the assets, to take the code, and to use it in your projects and to use it in your commercial projects potentially. So yeah, it's a pretty how do you say? Not restrictive, the opposite. Open, I guess.
Open project, yeah.
Yeah. What do you want? Says the pig.
Is the
Ciro,
mirror document you showed before generated from the solution or made by hand?
What was the question again?
Is the mirror document you showed before generated from the solution or made by hand?
No, it's made by hand. It's made by hand. They are
Yeah.
diagrams that we create. Yeah.
Yeah, each time we present something, a new feature, we think that a mirror diagram would show it better. So we create one that could explain the feature that we are showing.
Permissive there, that's the word I was looking for. Thanks, elusive Sam.
The community reads in your mind, you know.
Or they know English better than me, very simply. It's not like it doesn't need any ESP kind of power.
So there's a question, where is the design document in the roadmap? And yes, the design document exists in multiple places. One is in the document, in the codec, in the deck that's called Game Design Wiki, and that contains everything from the gameplay, the story, the characters, and everything basically.
To be fair, I would say, for some people who are used to work in maybe in a studio environment, this will feel like a very small design document. The reason is because it's kind of like work in progress. Like we didn't want to lock everything in from the beginning, but we wanted to at least be able to evolve it in time, let's say. So yeah, but you'll find it here in the roadmap, which is linked in the description of this video as well. Yeah. More questions? Somebody is talking in Italian. Yeah. You mean the pig? Yeah, not me. Okay.
The inspiration for this animation was Ciro.
Oh, this is an interesting question. Somebody's asking, you were contemplating about using visual scripting /Bolt. It's true. We were contemplating that at the very beginning of the project. Do you think it would have still been an option considering how the project developed? Yes. I mean, I would say Bolt is a pretty comprehensive system. So if we went with Bolt, we would have been able to do all of the things that we're doing. But,
I don't think that there's anything that we did in our project that we can't find in Bolt. But
what do you think? What do you girls think?
I think yes. I'm not sure because I have to test it. There are some things that I'm thinking right now and I need to test them. But yeah, I think we could have done it with Bolt. I think.
Okay.
Maybe we should ask Ashley.
Amel?
Yeah, actually, I was curious to, maybe not necessarily with this project, but maybe we can do it later in the future, is to try to implement some, like a parallel version of some systems using Bolt and see how maybe it's simpler if we use Bolt for them, or maybe it's more performant if we still use, the way we are doing it now. So I think it could be like an interesting way of having like a small benchmark for the different systems using the Bolt and using the regular, I would say, script. But yeah, what's your opinion about it, Ciro?
I don't know Bolt inside out. I don't think it will be more performant in general, because obviously the more things you introduce, Bolt has a lot of niceness to it, so it will it probably has more structure that makes it maybe slightly less performant. It depends on what you're doing with it. But I also think, like it's nice to have a tool that it's ours. So the state machine that one of our contributors, Davesky, made, it's for this project, right? And it's like it's tailored on this project. And if we need something, we change it. Obviously, with Bolt, you have all the scripts, whatever, but it's such a big structure that it's hard to change. Here we have the ability to just like tweak it the way we want. And if we need something, we make it. I think it's cool. I think it works for this project because it's relatively small. So we don't need everything that Bolt can do. I think it would have been cool to maybe use Bolt to connect it to some other script, like for example have it as a state machine for the UI or something, but maybe it's out of scope for us. We'll see.
Yeah, I think we thought about it, but we decided not to use it to not overwhelm people with this package, I think. So yeah, it was a decision that we took at first, and yeah, maybe one day we could propose a feature using Bolt.
Yeah,
I'm
or we
thinking
could do it after release as well as a modification.
I'm thinking about one day proposing something using UI Toolkit, and I don't know if people are interested in that or not, but yeah.
And my question, Chema, is why? Why?
Because
why UI Toolkit, Chema? Why?
it's a really cool feature that I want to show more people, and maybe we could create like a an extension, an editor extension, something to maybe make the quests. I'm not sure yet. So yeah.
Okay, it's an idea.
Are people interested about that?
Are you interested in UI Toolkit? That's the question that Chema is asking.
Yeah, it's a two-way thing. I can ask question, you can ask question. Yeah.
Ciro, aren't we using, maybe, I'm not sure, are we using the UI element also for a state machine?
Yeah, for the tool that you've shown, it's made with UI Toolkit.
Yeah, that's interesting, yeah.
Somebody's asking if I can answer the question. What's your question? Is everything available on the same place, design, source code I meant on Git? No, we have three locations, as we said.
Yeah.
Like one is the GitHub repo, which has the code and the wiki. One is the roadmap, which has the game design and the tasks and everything. And obviously the forum contains like a lot of discussion related to both. Shall we listen to some music?
Oh yeah,
I was gonna mention.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, like big reveal.
Yeah.
Big reveal.
So let's listen to.
Which one do you wanna listen to? I remind you, we have the Glade, the forest, and the beach.
When Ciro asks a question to the community, I always think he's asking us. So I was prepared to.
Maybe
I was
he's asking.
actually asking you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
But
great.
I can ask the community too.
Okay, so we need to specify each time. So yeah, I want to hear the first one, the beach.
The beach.
one.
Okay.
Because it's the first one we arrive on.
Okay. So we'll play the music from the beach. Give me 1 second to change the song. I'm the DJ here.
Yeah.
And Chema and Amel, I know you won't be able to hear it, but imagine, think of yourself on the beach.
On the
with
beach.
Barred hair.
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
And the beach.
shall I get my sunglasses? Not yet.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, and go. It's right. You don't hear it, so
No, I was hearing it on the YouTube channel.
on the stream. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's some delay. Okay. I'll stop it now.
Welcome
So we're
back.
Also because Amel and Chema can't hear the music, so they're like chilling on their own, in complete silence. Did you like the song? Did you like this music? This was again the music for the beach level, which is basically the one that you're seeing in the video where the Bard hair is playing. So it's the one where the pig chef arrives on the beach for the first time, and kind of like that's the tutorial for the game. You start moving around, you learn the controls and so forth.
Yeah. So is the question for us or for the community this time?
Well, for you, the song that you imagined was being played, did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it so much.
Okay. Somebody was saying like, "Rabbit, we don't hear you." Yeah, I know. I think it's the rabbit seems like it's singing, but there's no song singing. Somebody was asking, how do we render the mouth of the Bard hair, which is an interesting question. I think nobody really asked before. We render it through something that is called, I think they called face cards. I think that's the technical term. But basically, the idea is that it's just some polygons. Wait, I'm gonna show you my face. It's just some polygons that are like in front of the mouth and in front of the eyes, and they have different textures. So it's really simple. So if you look closely, you can see that they blink. Well, the Bard hair doesn't move his eyes, but the pig chef does, and basically the texture just changes to a different file every time. And the animation, the swapping is done in the animation. So the animation clip has a keyframe for different renderers that are like turned on and off, but they share the same geometry. So it's a very simple trick, I would say. But it works fine for our game because obviously the style is what it is.
Yeah.
I think the big chef does the same. Yeah, there we go. With the mouth. So yeah.
I think later on, if you open the editor, you can show people how it's not on the face, like it's like a plane or something.
Oh yeah, I can actually do it. I'm gonna put back the music that we have usually in the stream.
Yeah.
Chill music.
Yeah.
And we want to move on. Chat, can we move on? Is Fmod a thing for this project? No, we're not using Fmod. We're not using any middleware because we weren't sure about the redistribution of that thing and the libraries that you create. So we couldn't use any middleware for music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's next?
What's next? Next is Addressables.
Oh yeah, that's exciting.
Question for the chat, and let me get my question friend. Do you know what addressables are?
And if you know them, did you use them?
Do you know what
enough.
addressables are? Somebody says yes, nope, no, yes. Move on. Somebody
Yeah,
says,
it's like
I'll
asset
move on.
bundles. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's move on. Pointers. I'll give you an explanation. I should lower the music a little bit. I think it's too loud. So what are addressables? And I'll take the stage in some way. If you're familiar with asset bundles, addressables are an evolution of that. Basically, in Unity, let's take a look at the project, right? Let's see things from the project point of view. Let me open the project. If you're working with all these assets, right, like the scene, the rocks, the models that compose the scene, the textures that make those models, the prefabs, when you build the game, where do these assets go? And how are they linked together? So the first thing, and this is before addressables, like this is normal, let's say regular Unity, is that you have this panel here called build settings, where you specify all the scenes that go into the build, right? And that's kind of like the first access point. In fact, Unity always wants a scene to start with. I can't delete this scene and launch the game. It would be impossible. So we have one scene in the build settings, and normally you have multiple scenes. By connecting this scene, let's say that I were to find the scene, by connecting, for example, let me find a location and say beach. If I leave beach in here, what happens is that beach is now in the build, and what that means is that whatever is in the I missed the click. Whatever is in the beach scene will be put in the build. So if you have a prefab here, it will be loaded into the build because the beach scene is there. If the prefab references a texture, the texture will be brought into the build. So you can see how there's kind of like a map of dependencies that is being built starting from the scenes. And that's how Unity knows how to put the assets in the scene. In the build. When these assets are not connected to the scenes, like I'm sure you've done sometimes, you've had like a script that instantiates an object, right? And you used probably resources.load, right? And resources.load, what it does is that it takes the assets in a special folder that is called resources, and it puts them into the build. Now, what's the issue with resources.load? Who here uses resources.load? I'm curious to hear from the chat. Do you use resources, the resources folder in your project, or have you used it in the past? If you used it, you know that what happens is that the assets put in resources are all put together, are all put in one single compressed file, which is then put in the build. Now, what's the issue? Because they're all in one file, Unity doesn't know when you're gonna be calling resources.load, especially because resources.load is a string-based function. So there's no way for it to know which assets you're gonna be loading and at what point. What happens is that when you launch the game, the whole zip file of resources will be loaded into memory at once, which means that basically, if you press play into the game, or if you launch a game executable, Unity has to load all of the assets from your game in one go. And that's not super good, because on PC that works quite fine. But when you go to mobile, for example, or when you go to a console that doesn't have that much CPU power or doesn't have that much memory, loading all of the assets from the game at once is not the best option. And on mobile especially, it can create like a black screen for a few seconds, and that's what basically will push away some players. Like people on mobile, they will basically launch your game from the launcher and see a black screen for a few seconds, and if it lasts too long, they will basically maybe close the app and think that it's broken. So that's a disaster for a mobile developer. So you don't want to put all of these assets in one file. So how do you do it? Well, one way is, as somebody in the chat mentioned, is to use asset bundles. So asset bundles, somebody mentioned Among Us. Does Among Us have a long starting? I didn't notice that.
Does it?
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So yeah, one way to load assets in a different way is asset bundles. And Amel and Chema, have you ever used asset bundles?
Yeah, I did, but like way before.
In another life?
In another life, yeah, exactly. But I used the resource.load. I used it a lot when I was working on games, especially for like text files and JSON files, things like that.
Amel, did you ever use asset bundles?
The old days.
You used them? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like Chema, but yeah, it's not something that I have touched recently, I would say.
So you're all pros here. I never used them. I actually shipped 2 games and I never used asset bundles in those. It's funny. So actually one of the games takes a while to load on mobile. It was a mobile game. I'm curious to see if the chat has used asset bundles at any point. So the point of asset bundles is this. They're super cool. They allow you to define kind of like bundles, like groups, where you put assets all together into that bundle and then you load them and you unload them whenever you need them. So you have control over which assets are loaded in memory, which means you can have a game that starts faster because you don't load everything at once. And then you load things as you need them. So you need level 1, you load asset bundle 1 and you use it. When I say load, just be careful. I just mean load in memory. I don't mean load, download or anything. Even though asset bundles could be remote. They could be on a server, but they don't need to be. They could be on disk. But it's important to remember that like things to be executed, to be shown on screen and to be used and to run, they need to be loaded into the RAM. And so that's what asset bundles give you control over. Now, what's the issue with asset bundles? Asset bundles are a bit slow to use. They need like a lot of code around them, in the sense that you need to pack assets into asset bundles. You need to load them, of course. You need to track dependencies. So if you have an asset that is a scene, you need to explicitly say this scene is referencing this object and this object, and bring them into the bundle with the scene itself. And all of that was done through code. So Addressables is a system that builds on top of that and provides kind of like an overarching system, simplified layer to pack assets into bundles. So to show you the in our project, I'm actually still working on it. So you'll see a few things here and there. But before, when you open the build settings, you will see all of the scenes inside here. Now you see almost none. You only see one. And that's what I said before. We always need one scene to be in the build settings because we want to start from that one. So this one stays. Now, initialization, you will notice that it's actually a pretty empty scene that just has one game object and one script that is connected to a couple of scriptable objects. So you can imagine how this scene will load instantly fast because there's not much to load. So the game will start like straight away. And we can start, showing like maybe a loading screen or whatever. So with Addressables, which we installed in this project, we have this menu here called Addressable Groups. You will notice the ones who have been following this project will notice that we actually had some addressable groups already here from the localization package. So the localization package is actually using addressables already. In fact, it brings them in as a dependency to load string tables, to load like different languages, so that it makes sure that you're not always loading all languages at once. If I'm using French, why would I load all of the text from English? Why would I load all of the textures from English? Because you can localize also assets, right, Chema, as you teach us. You're muted.
Sorry, I was reading the chat, so I wasn't following the question.
No, I was saying, as you've shown us in previous episodes, you can localize also textures and other assets, not just text.
Exactly. Using this, actually, the localization package is using the addressables, so that's a nice thing.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So the point is like you don't want to load all of the assets localized for all languages at once. You just load the ones from one language. So we were already using addressables, unknowingly.
Yeah.
But now we are basically explicitly defining some more addressables, let's say some more groups for ourselves. So you see here, there's a few ones. I will just go over a few of them. The one is called default local group. As you can see, it's empty. You see there's no way to expand here the thing. And then there's a bunch of them which I created one by one. And you create them just by like right-clicking, create new group, packed assets. So for example, I can create one and I can call it like live stream assets, right? Just because I created it right now. And as you can see, each one of these groups has options here to the right, which define where the group of assets is gonna live. I want to specify because somebody was asking, are groups bundles? Are groups asset bundles? They can be, but what groups are really are a way to group things by logical sense. Like logical, I mean for the human, right? So for me, for example, it makes sense to put all menu scenes together, all location scenes together, maybe all logical scriptable objects together. But you see that when I expand this group, I can see that it contains a lot of, in this case, they are folders. And then the folders contain a lot of scriptable objects. So in this group, I'm grouping together a lot of objects. And then on the options of the group, actually, if you go here, you can see that there's an option called, help me, this one, bundle mode. It says pack together, pack separately, pack together by label. So basically a group could generate multiple asset bundles if you were to choose, for example, pack separately. And it will generate one asset bundle for each one of these folders and so forth. So groups are not asset bundle one-to-one, but sometimes they are. But again, it's just more for you for logically defining different repositories of assets and asset bundles. One interesting point which we're not going to touch in our project is that you can actually decide that some groups are local, that some groups are remote. And this is super powerful because it allows you to say, for example, have some assets in the build and some assets are on a server. If you're a mobile developer, you will understand immediately what's the power behind this. You could potentially have assets that change in time and that you upgrade because of seasonal promotions or you want to push like a quick update on content. You can do it on the server. But in our case, we're going to only have assets that are inside the build because this game is self-contained. It's not an online game. So we will pack all of the assets inside the build. So again, I'm not going to touch this one here. Back to the groups. So I created a bunch of groups and you can see how there's some for scenes here, manager, some for scriptable objects. And then I have one which is called excluded from build for reasons I'm not going to explain now. But if you see here, the options, I unchecked including build. So this is actually not going to be exported. Very simply, how do you define an addressable asset, right? Let's go to, let's see. Not to scripts, maybe. Let's go to art, characters. Let's find the expressions of the big chef. So big chef, and then here's the different mouth cards. You remember before we were talking about face cards. So these are the expressions that you use. So for instance, let's say that I want to define this texture as an addressable. You see here at the top of the inspector, there's a little checkbox that you mark, and when you click it, the asset is now an addressable. And in fact, you can see that it appeared in this default local group. So now this default local group has a reference to that asset, and it's basically going to pack that asset in one asset bundle in here. What you can do now is that you can take this asset and reference it into scripts, into mono behaviors, into scriptable objects that have a thing that is called asset reference. Asset reference, like this one here, is a special kind of field. You see that it looks very much like a normal reference, like this one, which brings up the familiar browser. But this one specifically has a drop-down that allows you to like filter, you can search. So for example, here you see the the asset that I was referring to. There's actually a way to make this filter automatically for types of assets, so it's very convenient. But basically what's happening now is that I could connect this texture and assign it to this script. Now comes the important part, and now this is the part that you need to understand. This way of assigning references is not direct. When you try to access that file from that script, for example, let's say that from this script I want to load that texture. The file might be there, or it might be not there, it might be somewhere else. That's why it's an asset reference. It's a reference to an asset, but it's not an asset yet in some way. So the point is, that asset is sitting in an asset bundle. The asset bundle could be in your build, or it could be on a server. And that's why with addressables, one thing you need to do when you use addressables is to load assets asynchronously. So it means that you always have to perform a request and listen to a reply. And once the asset bundle has been loaded, you can use the asset, right? So for this particular texture, I'm not gonna connect it to anything, but like if we look inside this initializer script, and there's one of the famous like scriptable objects that we used to see, like the event channels. This one here, right now, I mean, as I press play, this one wouldn't be available yet, but then the addressable system would request for it and make it available. So there's like a little disconnection there if you want. Of course, if the asset bundle is local, is inside the build, the loading is gonna be instantaneous, more or less. It's just like reading from disk. If it's remote, if it's in a server, then it's gonna take like the time that it takes to download. But again, you need to program things this way. If I want to show you actually the script for this particular script here, just to show you how it looks like. So if I open the initialization loader, obviously Visual Studio was not on. I wanted to ask Chema, if you see any questions from the chat that, you know, by any means interrupt me. Like if you see anything that makes sense to reply just now, you know?
Yeah, I'm following there, and if there's anything, I will just like prompt the Hamlet GIF.
Okay, yeah, always asking for questions.
Yeah.
So just to show you the what the script looks like, let me zoom in. How do you zoom in on?
Control plus, yes.
It doesn't work actually for me. That's why I was asking.
Because we have like a little bit of break. Can I just read this question? So there's a question: can I make different skins for localization? For example, not a pig, but a cow. And yes, you can have different asset tables if you want. So yeah.
Yeah. You can, as we said before, you can localize textures, models, whatever, sounds, which is obviously useful for dubbing.
Yeah, everything that can be an asset.
Ciro, you can control and scroll actually to zoom. Does it work?
That's nice.
Okay,
that's
great.
super nice.
Yeah.
So this is this script just to show you what does it mean to load an asset reference. So you see here menu load channel, which is the one you see in Unity here connected. This is an asset reference, and if I scroll down where I use this, you can see that this is calling a function on itself. Well, we're calling a function on it called load asset asynchronously, as I said before, of the type load event channel SO, and then it hooks up into this event, hooks up this callback. So basically, we're listening to the completed event, the completed action actually, on this async operation handle, which is returned by this load asset async operation. So we are requesting the loading of this thing. When this thing loads, this function is going to execute, and that's the asynchronicity. We can't just like, you know, add a couple of lines and do things, and obviously don't write this code because this wouldn't work. But we can't do that. We need to wait for it to load, and on success, we will perform operations with it. So that's how asset references require you to operate. as I said before, using addressables doesn't mean that everything needs to be an asset reference. In this case, this object is an asset reference. This one here is just a regular reference. So this one will be immediately available because this one is being connected as a dependency to this scene. So if this scene is, again, in the build settings, then this object here is also in the build settings. All clear up to here?
Yes, I guess. We don't have any particular questions, I would say, for now, specific
I think
to
we had like this one
addressables.
just now. How to get the asset bundle
Checksum.
before downloading the bundle itself.
I don't know. I think you should explore the what's it called? The APIs for the package and see if there's something like that. I will say that, as usual, the Unity documentation is improving a lot. So if you go to the documentation for the addressable system, latest version, here there's like a lot of guides to the left, and then if you go to scripting API, you can check here if there's something that that works like that. Maybe it's not called checksum, maybe it's called like different thing. Is it called hash?
Maybe.
I don't know. Anyway, check it out and see if the documentation has something about it, or maybe ask on the forums if you have a specific question. Unfortunately, that one I don't know.
Yeah, so there's another question from Jérôme Millière, I think. Is there a mechanism in case the asset never loads? I think so. I think there's a default.
Yeah, I mean, the mechanism is in place, let's say, but you need to act on it. So on this async operation handle, you will receive a parameter which is called success. Success is the value. It's called result, I think. And basically, you check the value of that. If it's success, it means that the asset is ready to use. Then there's failed, and then there's another value which means that it's still in progress. So you can build some checks on that. Actually, we use it in the loader. Let me see if I can load the loader. So the loading, the scene loader script, which has changed completely its face. You will notice here that we have status. Sorry, it's not called success, it's called status. So loading operation, async operation handles have this parameter called status. And it can be succeeded, not success, failed, and none. So when it's succeeded, it means that the operation has finished. And then you can kind of like consider it succeeded. So yeah, there's a way to check. There's a lot of APIs, to be honest. I don't know them all. There's one, for example, to check the size of the bundle before you download it, because maybe you wanna, for example, for a phone or a phone game, you wanna ask the user, do you wanna actually download this data? Because they might be on a cellular data network, right? So as they download the game, you might say like, do you want to? And that's kind of like a nice thing to do. Rest assured that if you download like 2 gigs of data without asking, the user will delete your game. So again, there's a lot of APIs, and I don't necessarily know all of them.
Yeah. So there's another question, but I think that the answer would be the same as this one. So Alex Tornado asked, can you run into problems with loading content from servers from mobile devices? Could the device surprisingly deny loading it? And how can you ensure there are no problems? So I think that to ensure there is no problems, you check the status.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess there's cases, right, like out of memory or stuff like that. Yeah.
And always have like a fallback plan, the default thing, and yeah,
that's true.
Work.
To be fair, at that point, I think the status will be succeeded, but then you will need to check if the result, and that's actually, I think it's called the result, is not null, right? So you will check if the asset actually came through, let's say. Is it called dot result? I think so. This is a long script, but yeah. So these changes actually we're gonna put them in the project soon. We're gonna merge them soon. Are you able to cancel the download which is in progress? Yes, you are. There's also like a caching mechanism. So if you downloaded the asset bundle already, you don't need to download it again. You can specify if asset bundles are cached or not. So there's a lot of options. Like, trust me, there's too many to mention right now. As I said, here in the options of these groups, you'll find a lot of options. So I really recommend visiting the documentation to check. The documentation also has some interesting. I closed the thingy, but some interesting. This one, for example, is very interesting. Addressable assets development cycle. It shows you like how to start developing, how to build, and how to update. Because you can also update assets on a server, as we mentioned before. So there's a lot of interesting guides on the documentation. So just to keep moving, because we don't want to like go on forever, I actually prepared this little. I know you love diagrams, so I put a diagram in your diagram. No, that's another joke. So the way, for example, we will structure the addressables in our game looks a little bit like this, and I hope you can see the diagram fine. Can also go full screen, I guess.
Yeah.
So as you can see here, there will be one bundle of data, which is this one, which I called game build, which will contain one scene, initialization. And initialization brings with itself a couple of game objects, right? And then there will be a bunch of asset bundles, which are these purple boxes. So we have one for location scenes, one for menu scenes, one for manager scenes, data scriptable logic, scriptable objects. If you check Unity, that's exactly these ones, right? They're not one by one, but like that's more or less what they are. So for example, data scriptable objects has a bunch of folders, and inside we find the scriptable objects, which are represented here by these icons. So we will get them all together in one bundle, which means that when, for example, a certain menu needs to access that logic, the system will load this asset bundle here, logic SOs. It will download them all because you always download an asset bundle in its entirety. So if all these scriptable objects are packed together, it will load them into memory together. But that's something we probably want, because we want all event channels to be ready for use in case we need them. For the data SO, right now I packed things all together. So here, we might actually have to break them down into groups a little bit better. I was a bit lazy, I wanted to go fast, so I put the audio, the inventory, the narrative all together. We might break them into different groups so that they basically get packed separately. But this is a local game, like we don't need to like load and unload things from the network, so it should be okay. One thing I wanted to mention is somebody was mentioning in the chat dependencies. So the cool thing about the addressable system is that dependencies are actually managed for you. So you can see here I've kind of like specified that this bundle here, the purple box, which is location scenes, again, is this one. Location scenes implicitly says, I want all of these scenes to be included in the box, in the bundle. I want their light maps, I want their, lighting data and stuff. And these are like these light blue boxes. But together with those, because those scenes reference like prefabs and textures and scriptable objects sometimes and materials, all of those assets that are linked to the scenes will be pulled into this bundle, which means that whenever I request the loading of any scenes from this location, this whole bundle will be loaded, and all of the assets will be loaded with it. This can actually generate some duplication, because if for example you were to pack the beach in one bundle and the forest in another bundle, it means that you could get duplication because the trees are shared and Unity will put the tree in two different bundles in a copy. So that's a thing that can happen, and we need to basically pack our assets carefully so that it doesn't happen. I'll leave a second to breathe. Not for me. I can mash words one after the other, but I think it's good to have some time to process these concepts.
Yeah, I think we have a question that you might answer, Ciro, if you want to put the Hamlet. So PNB asks, are we able to cancel the download which is in progress?
Yeah, we got this one before. Yeah, you can. So you can always cancel a download of an asset bundle. In this case, in our game, it should be too fast to cancel. Like, I mean, you can always interrupt it, but yeah, because everything is loaded from disk, it should go pretty fast.
Great. I don't think we have any other question for now.
Okay, feel free to ask. The other thing that I wanted to bring to the people's attention, because we had a couple of threads. We had an issue on GitHub and a thread talking about this. So the question was, with addressables, when we have, let's say that we have one scene with an object referencing a scriptable object, and we have another scene with another game object referencing the same scriptable object, right? You can see my fingers here. They are referencing the same object. What's happening? If, as I said before, if we were to pack two scenes, 1 and 2, in different bundles, what happens is that scriptable object will be pulled into two different bundles separately. And now you would have like two bundles with the scene and the object, and a bundle with the scene and the object. What happens is that for our particular game architecture, when we broadcast events on that, for example, scriptable object, because it's now duplicated, object A broadcasts on its own copy, object B listens to its own copy, but they never find each other because they're effectively broadcasting on two different objects. So that was one issue that somebody brought up. I did some investigation. I'm not a super expert, in all things Unity, so we had to look into it, and we concluded that that's not an issue if you pack things properly. And that's why, as you can see here, for example, we pack scriptable objects separately. What's happening here? If, for example, and actually I'm going to switch to another part of the graph. So let's say that this is the situation that we have now. Can I zoom just a little bit less? This is the situation that we have now. We have a scene, the persistent managers, which is trying to load another scene, game location. Let's say that it's the Glade, for example. Then an object in that scene fires an event on these scriptable objects, which we use as a channel. This audio manager here wants to listen to that event. Before, everything was working, and people said like, hey, but what if you pack them? Basically, you would get like this object duplicated, it will go into this scene, and it will go into this scene separately into different bundles. So again, by packing things properly, and how do you pack things properly? You would basically want to define a bundle just for scriptable objects, a bundle for scene B, and a bundle for scene A. And if you do this, this object is not going to be duplicated, because when it's time to pack, when it's time to build the game, the addressable system will go in and say like, okay, you want this object, you want this object. I know that this object is living in its own bundle. I'm not going to bring it into your bundles. So this is now belonging to a different location, asset bundle C. And again, if you look at the kind of like the big picture, it's in this bundle here, right? So the logic lives in its own bundle, and the scenes have their own bundles. And that's why the logic doesn't get duplicated, and it keeps working. So when we now fire an event from the audio queue and we request a sound to be played, there's gonna be the audio manager that listens to it and plays it. That's kind of like the solution to the thing that people were asking on the forums, and it was a good question because it's something that puzzled people in the past. And I think the key point there is that because asset bundles before asset bundles were not making it easy to define dependencies, people, rightly so, made mistakes, and so it wasn't working. But now with this system, it's actually pretty easy to just let the system track the dependencies for you. Yep. Questions? We have let's put the question guy.
Yeah.
Questions?
So David asked, could bundles get big if scriptable objects in turn have references to textures, etc.?
Yes, definitely. Because dependencies are needed, right? And then the system is not going to cut them for you. If for example, scriptable objects refers to a texture, the texture is going to be pulled inside the bundle. And that's why actually I started with defining the logic and data separately. But as I said, I think data needs to be broken down into more bundles as logical, even though it's not logic, but as logical. The logic SOs are usually pretty light, but yeah, we need to do that work and to really identify what goes into one bundle and what not. The cool thing though about addressables and about these groups, so going back to how things are implemented. So you've seen how I took this texture and I marked it as an addressable just by checking this checkbox. I can actually remove it and re-add it as many times as I want, and you see it appear here in the system. But you can also, and that's what I did, mark entire folders as addressables. So that means that the content of that folder will be included in the bundle, and you don't need to manually add them one by one. So what I think we should do is to mark folders, put them into the logical groups, and then everything should be okay. And if you put things in the proper folder, and you know how strict I am on enforcing good folder structure, Amel and Chema, no? I'm a freak, folder freak.
Folder freak.
Yes.
And please no spaces in the name.
Yeah. Because I get angry.
Yeah.
So if we enforce the right folder structure and people put things in the right folders, then they will be automatically brought in as addressables and packaged in the right asset bundle as needed.
There is another interesting question. I think it's like a good use case of addressables and how powerful they are. So they're asking how you'd handle dynamic content, like new items being added, I think, after game is published, one bundle per set group of items, and then update the bundle that has the item database SO. Yeah,
so basically it's a bit out of scope because we are not doing that in the game, but let's cover that. I think it's an interesting question. So the addressable system has a whole system to, number one, you need to build, right? So when you build your game, you build your content as well. So what happens is that, let's say that you have a game that has remote asset bundles and you want to swap that content, which is what they're suggesting. What they're saying is you have maybe a bundle that had one asset and now you want to swap it with a bundle that has 5 assets, let's say. So what you would do is you would define definitely a group for those changing assets. You will notice that on each group there's a function, there's a property that is called here. Actually, it's not in advance, it's here. It says update restriction can change post-release or cannot change post-release. So if you set it like that, and then what you want to do is inside the main settings for addressables, there is a setting somewhere, which I can find right now. This one, build remote catalog. So build remote catalog basically says that, as the tooltip says here, there is a catalog of all of the assets in the project, and you're also making a remote one. So the remote one goes on the server. When you build a remote catalog, you're basically kind of like creating a snapshot of the assets. when you make an update, so on the server you swap the file, you swap the bundles, and you swap the new catalog, whoever is playing the game, for example on their phone, and they launch the game will look for the remote catalog again, will match it with the local one, and if it finds any change, it will download new assets, right? So that's the way to get new assets from the server if you made a change. In the game, you need to make sure that you're not just loading one asset, because as we said, like maybe the update that they're thinking is like, first I launch with one character and now I have 5 characters. Well, your game needs to be ready for that. Like you need to load smartly and say, instead of referencing one prefab, you want to load all of the prefabs in a folder. And in that sense, the first time it's going to give you one result, so it shows you just one. And then as you push this update on the server, it will find 5 and now it will show 5. But the game needs to be ready for that. There is one more option in the addressables, just to finish this thing. When you mark objects as addressables, you can actually specify labels. And labels are a great way to be, dynamic. So instead of loading assets and saying like, I want this prefab, you would say like, give me all the prefabs that have this label. And then if the prefabs are more, it will just load more, right? So that's a great way to pack content by function, let's say. Ooh, that was a long explanation.
Yeah.
Cool.
But this is really a very interesting topic, I would say. And people raised already the conversation, as you said. It started from the forum and in the threads and also in GitHub repository. So that's really interesting. And I think it's the right time to actually start tackling this part, I would say, in the project. And yeah, that was interesting.
Somebody's asking about the cache. I think they're saying, can we clean up a single asset bundle to clear the persistent cache? I'm not super 100% sure about the cache. I think the way it works is that if your game is saying like, I need to download this bundle. The first time it downloads it and puts it into the local cache. The second time it says, I need to download this bundle. If it's in the cache, it will use the one from the cache. But if it's changed on the server, it will probably download it again. So first it checks if the bundle changed in the remote catalog, and if it changed, it will get a new one. I know that there is a way for players, for example, on Android, I can decide to delete the local, how do you call it? The local data, the local files.
Aren't they called local data, actually? I think so.
Yeah, there's a name. There's a function on apps to be able to delete. I'm not gonna do it just for this. To delete the local data of an app, and I think what it does in the case of a Unity game, it will delete the asset bundles and some other what's the name? The variables, those variables that you can save. Help me. Something vars.
Variable that you can save?
Yeah, the function to save like individual variables locally. Chat, please help. Let's see if they remember.
I don't understand the question.
There's an API of player prefs. There we go. You see?
Oh,
the
yeah.
chat always knows. Player prefs, yes.
Yeah.
True.
Player prefs, yes, you said it. No,
Yeah, like how everyone is playing. That's good.
My brain is fried at this point. But yeah, I think it deletes that one as well. Chat for the win.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the. This is a bit of an intro on addressables. Now, for us, what do they mean? In your case, not like you don't need to change much. We'll take care of like making things work and making sure that scenes are loaded by addressables. Actually, the last thing I want to show. Sorry, girls, I'm going very long on this explanation.
No worries. I think the chat is loving it. So yeah.
Is this option here that's in the addressable groups panel? As you can see, there's a button called Play Mode Script. This Play Mode Script means that when I press play, there's 3 ways to run the game. One is called Use Asset Database, and this basically says, I'm not going to use addressables. I'm just going to use the game as it was before. So everything will run like before. I'm going to grab the files from here, you know, from the actual folder, and use this, right? So this is the one that causes like less disruption. And if you use this, the game should just work. This one, I never remember what it does. Simulate groups. I think I don't know. I'm not gonna jump into an explanation which I'm gonna guess things. But this last one, I know. This one is basically saying, I'm not gonna grab the objects from here, but I'm gonna grab them from the actual build content, which is, if I go to show in Explorer. So this is the structure of the project. If you go back to the root, I cleared them, of course. I think I can build them though. Let's try. So what I'm doing here is I'm building the content, right? So I'm saying to Unity, all of the interactive assets. That's what it's doing here, which you do through this function here at the top called build something. I don't remember right now. Maybe it wasn't the best idea. Yeah. So he's basically, as you can see, calculates scene dependency data. Is like checking all of the objects that I marked as addressables, and he's checking the dependencies and pulling them into these bundles one by one. As you can see, many are they were Unity scenes. Then we saw some assets which were scriptable objects, and now it's doing the shaders. Count to 3. 3, 2.
3, 2.
1, 2, 3.
0.5.
0.3. 0.2.
Not sure if it was a good idea.
Never what we are expecting.
Yeah, but it's not that long. It's just that during the stream it's gonna be longer. You know, time stretches out in unexpected ways. Okay, there was an error. No.
Crickets.
I'm sad.
So yeah.
I don't know if I'm looking in the wrong. There we go. No, this is the asset data. Sorry. Yeah.
No worries, Chiro. We're
typical.
here.
Typical. Yeah. But I can show you the bundles. I built this game, so I can show you the bundles from another location, which is the actual game build, which I'm gonna find if I go to desktop. Don't laugh. Why are you laughing at me?
No.
The chat is being.
We never
I love
do
to
that.
do like dangerous demos.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Anyway, I made 2 builds. I made a regular build, which you can see here, and I made an addressables build before. So the regular build, if I open the build, you can see that there's a folder called chop data. I open chop data, and I can find, you see here, like level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3. So these are all the scenes that have been like marked as in the building settings, and they pulled in all of the assets which are now kind of like packed in a bit of an ordered way in all of these like bundles that have no structure. So you see that they are only marked by a number, and they have a certain size. So you can see here like 33 megs, 123 megs. So they're a bit random, and we don't know what's inside. This is before addressables. With addressables, when I run the function in Unity, which right now is not running, but new build default script, what you get is something similar, but inside streaming assets, as you can see, divided by platform, so standalone Windows 64, you find the asset bundles as I defined them, so the groups. So you can see the localization ones, you can see the scenes, location scenes assets all, logic scriptable objects, manager scenes, menu scenes, whip scenes. So you can see all the asset bundles have been packed exactly as I said, and you can also check the size. So, you know, to satisfy the curiosity about size, data scriptable object assets is 10 megs, So it's probably pulling in some stuff. Logic scriptable objects is 20K. Actually, there's more. No, that's it. So this is probably just scriptable objects. So that, there's obviously some work to do there. The scenes are like 29 megs, 72 megs. If you suspect that there's some duplication of assets that are being pulled in different bundles, actually the system has inside tools, it has a thing called analyze, and you can basically run some rules, some analysis by rules. So for example, there's one rule already in the system which is called check duplicate bundles, and you can say analyze all the assets that are in current asset bundles and see if any of them is producing assets to be split into different bundles. And be careful, because I wanna reiterate this. A duplication of an asset in different bundles is not necessarily bad, because think, for instance, a game where you have like a progression of levels, right? And you have like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. And maybe level maybe the game uses like all memory, right? And there's no other way to run that game than if you just load the assets from that level and you unload them when the level is over, and you load the ones from another level. So it could make sense in that case to split and put an asset in both bundles so that it's kind of like loaded and unloaded automatically for you. So you load level 1 with all its trees, unload it, and then you load level 2 with all its trees. And even though there's a duplication, it doesn't matter, because like it makes the loading easier. So actually the script finished, and you can see here how many assets are being duplicated, and you can now inspect which ones.
Yeah. I think that the next devlog should be about addressables, actually.
We will probably do that on addressables.
Yeah.
It's a good topic, and in the devlog we can compact it. But obviously, we will never be able to go into details like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I remind everyone that you can also go to the forums, and we have the documentation for the addressables and other videos that talk about the addressables. So if you have any questions, there's there.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, just to finish this menu again, don't use the third option, don't use the second option, because the third option especially requires you to build before you press play. So you don't want to do that. You want to do that just for building. So if you're just testing the game, just make sure that in this menu, you're on the first one. Play mode script, use asset database, and then you can press play and run the game normally. That's it. That's it from me.
Awesome. I think that everyone was very interested about the addressables, and people were really reacting when you were talking. But I think that we don't have any question that you didn't answer. I'm not sure. If you have any questions, please ask us. Ciro, can you put the clip with Hamlet?
Yes. Question clip. Question time.
Question, please. Also, I think that we said we are going to show other sounds, other music
definitely.
of the game.
Yeah.
So what do you want to see now? Do you want to see the glades or the forest? I think that some people said forest earlier, but I'm not sure. So what do you want to hear?
Yes, chat, decide. I'll give you some pointers. The glades is a more like happy music, because it's more of an open space, and the forest is a bit more like tense and mysterious.
Yeah, everyone is asking for the forest.
and
Forest.
And we're gonna play one now, and then we play one at the very end of the episode, which is coming up pretty soon. So decide which one, and then we play the last one at the end of the episode.
Do you want the questions before or after playing the sounds?
The questions on addressables?
Yeah.
On addressables right now, if they have them.
I think that there's one that asks what's the best way to avoid duplicate, but I think you answered that.
The best way to avoid duplicates is managing dependencies carefully, like specifying the packing in the proper way, and packing things in the proper bundles, so that you know that they're gonna be bundled on their own rather than being pulled. So the more you let the system figure out the dependencies, the more it's gonna just like pull them into bundles. And but it really depends on the structure of the game.
Yeah.
Which between Forest and Glade has more interesting colliders? Colliders?
The music has colliders.
The music,
yeah.
or you mean the project, the scene?
In the dev team,
Yeah,
who
you're reading the
decides
question.
bundle decisions? I think
That's a
the
good
person. I think the person who's making the bundles. I'm not sure.
I think it depends on the size of the team, of course, but
Yeah.
And sorry, I was distracted by another question. It's a hard question because I think first you should. I think the decision is depending on the design of your game, right? Like, for example, having some assets remote, having some assets dynamic, some assets are skins, some assets are. For example, think of a game that's a mobile game. I don't know if you've ever played. I think I quoted this before. Mobile games made by Nintendo. They're usually pretty big. Mm-hmm. They're actually made in Unity. Most of them, and they what they do is that they ask you to make a big download at the beginning, right? So you start the game and almost straight away they show you a download, and you need to download the whole game, so that the initial download of the game is actually shorter. There's an interesting opportunity there to create some gameplay, maybe a simplified version of the gameplay, and put it in the build without being downloaded, right? So you provide the player something to play while they actually download the rest of the game, or at least a sample of the game. And that strategy, you need to define it at the team level. Is like it's a commercial strategy almost, right? It's like it could be connected to like microtransactions and stuff like that. And then who implements it? That's a programmer, like a programmer in charge of managing the Unity project. They would be the ones making sure that the dependencies are properly organized, I would say.
Yeah. So there's a question about the shader variant collection. Roma Fedor asked, and what about the shader variant collection that will be placed inside the bundle? You could build PC asset bundles, but the shaders will be wrong on the Android device. I think you should test it on the Android device before.
I mean, why would it be wrong? I know that in the past, basically one problem with this system is that, for example, let's say that you were in Unity and the project was set to be, for example, an Android build, right? Because you want to build for Android. When you build, the asset bundles will be built for Android. And then when you press play in the editor, the shaders, Unity is going to try, because it's loading from the asset bundle, so it loads the bundles from Android, it would load the wrong shaders, right? So it would show you something weird and you would see errors because you're on a PC playing an Android build in some way, like you're just playing the Android shader. So I know that was an issue with asset bundles. Mm-hmm. I think with addressables, there's more control over that. So yeah. I honestly don't know where the option is. But yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to look for it right now, but I think there's more control over that. Or in any case, you can always hit like, as I showed before, where is the option? So this one, play mode script, and you just play asset database, and then you should be able to use just a regular shader from your project, and it doesn't break basically. If you use this one and you're in a Android game with the project switch to Android, then because it's reading from the asset bundle, it might break, but there's something that you could fix. Yeah, so exactly. So Mike says like this question would be fun to do it on the forum. Can you make a section topic there and share it later? Yeah. I mean, come ask it on the forum itself. Like make a topic yourself. It's a good question, and then I can actually liaise a little bit with the team, because again, we don't make this system, so we don't know. We know the details up to a certain point. And this option, I think, is there, so I don't want to lie, and so I want to ask the team first. So if you can bring the question to the forum, even to the open project forums, it's fine. Okay, music time.
Yeah.
So shall we listen to the forest song?
I think everyone wants to listen to the forest song.
I know. So let's stop the music that we have.
The description of it being mysterious, I think it's interesting, everyone.
All right. So we're gonna play the forest song. I'm gonna put our friend, the bard hair, Chema Damak. I'm sorry for you, but
And I listen on YouTube.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Okay then. This is actually a test on a forest that I made. So if you wanna put yourself in the environment, that's one test that I created a while ago. It's not the final thing, but Okay. I think it's enough.
Yeah.
It sounds so much like, I don't know, there's some Hans Zimmer vibes in there. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
Epic. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think, chat? Do you like it?
Everyone was liking it, and we have some funny comments, like someone said this is how confinement sounds like.
Wow. But I told you this song is a bit more tense, definitely, and that's why I think we're gonna use it in the forest, and for the more open parts we're gonna use the Glade song, which we're gonna show you in a second. Somebody was asking if the different, what did they say? The different parts separated into different clips. Yes, they are actually. We're gonna provide what they call stems, which are basically the different instruments, and you can remix and potentially come up with like different variations on the song, or maybe add to it. Make like a combat theme, or that's actually one of the ideas I had, was to have a combat music playing when you're fighting. But you don't have much fighting in the game, so I don't know if it's necessary. But it would be fun to see what people can come up with. We're gonna share them. We're gonna put them in the project soon.
That's awesome.
Still playing in the background. But I'm gonna put back the chill music we have. Otherwise, we get anxiety.
We get very stressed.
Yeah, for the rest of the stream. So let me put back to normal.
Yeah, someone said I can see this jumping into fight music really quick. So yeah, I think that this is true. Fight. Yep, why not? I thought the music was really, really great. It's at the same time chilling and exciting. I don't know how to explain it.
It is. It's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the second track. And by the way, the musician, she's called Marta Ascari. She's a musician that does both, like I would say normal music and game music. I'm actually gonna drop the name in the chat just so you can.
Yeah.
She's also on Spotify if you're curious.
Mm-hmm.
Someone asked, could we have at some point some comments from the soundtrack creator as well about the process, the guidelines they tackled, by any issues, and what these might have been?
Yeah, that would be cool. It's always hard to bring somebody external to Unity from Unity to the stream, but we could do that. Yeah, we can invite Marta and she can provide some context. She would love to do it, I think. She already said. So that would be cool.
Yeah, we would ask Marta and maybe invite her someday.
Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Do we have any other things to show the community today?
Not much. I mean, we're almost there. I think we're also at time. Oof, we went over time.
We're way more, way above time.
Okay. Are you guys bored yet? No,
I think they want to stick here until.
Nah. I think the number is going down slowly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up, and again we're gonna play the last song as kind of like the final credits. So stick for another 5 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
The only thing I wanted to show is in the roadmap, kind of like as a final.
Codex.
Yeah. I don't want to put cards right now, but we actually have put so many cards previously. So if you look into the roadmap, and we're trying to be more good with it, because we understand that if we don't put tasks up, then you don't know what to do on the project, right?
Yeah.
Even though there's a certain degree of freedom, of course. But we have put a few cards during the course of last week. So you'll find a lot of cards here in the code section, and some others are like in shading. Actually, we have one in audio, which you might not have noticed.
Yeah.
Be careful. Keep your eyes open. So just a few highlights. Amel, you mentioned the NPC moving on the nav mesh and the pathway
Yes.
component, which would be super nice to have. I have put a small preview here from a previous demo that I made 4 years ago when I started in Unity. So maybe I can take it from that project, but I think it's cool if somebody wants to jump on this. As you should remember that the tasks with the green dot means that we consider them a bit easier. We have respawn when falling out of bounds, easy task. We have this one which somebody's working on, ground material detector, to detect when you're walking on different materials and detect which sound we need to play, because we have a lot of footsteps for grass, for stone, for cobblestone, and for dirt and for sand. So we have a lot of footsteps, which also Marta made. So please detect that material, because I need to know what the pig is walking on. This is also an interesting one. We have a fade in, fade out kind of like transition, but we need to delay the loading to accommodate the duration of the fade out. Otherwise, you just start to fade out and you already see like the other level. So
I think
there.
someone already started doing that, so maybe
This one
could assign. Yeah, I think
Let's
I saw.
check. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, we have a PR open.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I linked it to the previous thread, so the comments are like from before. But okay, fine.
Yeah.
We'll update the
We'll
status
update
of the
the
card.
assignment. Yeah, exactly.
In any case, as usual, I want to mention that we don't assign cards to just one person, but we want people to make their proposition, and then we close the cards, because otherwise, as usual, we will have maybe somebody who stops midway through and then the card stays like undone forever.
Yeah.
What else would we add interesting that is new? Oh, did you see this one? Did we talk about this one? Maybe we mentioned it last time. But basically the idea is that the water shader, it creates some waves that are moved with time. The problem is that if I make an animation, I never know where those waves are in time. So we need to make it deterministic. We need to have a value which is controlled by the timeline, so that when the timeline moves forward, I know that the water will be always like in the same position, and then I can hand animate like a boat to move up and down. Because this is such a specific requirement and we only use it in one cutscene, as you can see, it's on the no rush lane of cards, because there's really no rush for this one. Interesting ones from shading. Wait, nobody has done the emission support for the shader, eh? I'm a bit annoyed. I'm pushing it up in the. I'll end up doing
the priority,
it,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm pushing it the priority because we don't have emission support in the shader yet. Maybe I'll do it at some point. I put a couple of 3D models, which I think could be useful to have. I put a lot of description, and this is based on actually on Smurios, one of our contributors, whiteboxing. She's making whiteboxing for the forest, for the town. So it would be nice to have a bridge 3D model. It would be nice to have a fence 3D model to block out like areas in town. So those are 3D modeling tasks. We have the graphic style of the UI, which we need to start working on because we need some UI quickly.
Yeah.
Quickly. I mean, it's something that will take time, so it's better to start.
I mean, I can still put my placeholders.
You're beautiful.
This is an icon of a banana.
Yeah. And then I put actually some tasks for music. This is actually sound design more than music. So I put up some sound design for the critters. Would be nice if somebody wants to jump on that, because we don't have anything planned for the sound. I mean, we could cover it. We still have like a batch of SFX that we need to make, but I think it would be nice for people to be able to define how these monsters sound. You know, it's an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
And that's it really, but there's not much in the other decks that really needs mentioning. We have a lot of bugs if you fancy like looking into those, but obviously it's the boring stuff. But you will have my gratitude.
Yeah.
And it's actually usually where we have the best conversations, I would say, is around bugs, like people giving, different solutions and proposing different PRs, and it's really nice, I would say. That's where you learn, I would say, the optimization.
Yeah, totally. The bugs have a lot of discussion going on. Chema, somebody's saying that you could finish all of those tasks in one afternoon. I don't know why.
No, it's too much. One afternoon is too much.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 hours maybe.
Sure.
So Mike is asking, can you point me to how to get assigned to a task? Also, can you share tasks? I mean, like a senior person helping a beginner. So again, assigning, we don't assign people because, as I said, number one, you never know the quality of the result. Number two, you never know if that person will actually finish it. Number three,
you don't know if they want it.
Exactly. No, but sometimes people ask. But there was another reason. But yeah, these are the main reasons we don't assign tasks to people, but we assign them kind of like when they're done, right? So when if you see like, for example, if you look into the decks, all the tasks that are done, they usually have implemented by, for example, this person in this PR. So you can always look on who made it, basically, if they're community contributions. So again, we don't assign them beforehand because that would be very counterproductive. And that's why the reason why we always say like discuss them on the forums, so you don't overlap each other. And so to your question, Mike, yes, you can collaborate, absolutely, like so many people do. And actually the best thing is when some people do like a small part of the task, maybe in a PR, and then some other person does another part of the task, and that's totally fine. We don't expect you to do like the entirety of the task or more, just like do what you can do and push it in a PR so that we can evaluate it and bring it in. And we had a lot of collaborations. We had collaborations on the whiteboxing, on the scene loading tool, on so many things.
Yeah, so, there are so many helpful people that just make comments or fix some commits or some bugs and things like that. So yeah, I think there are many senior people that are helping the beginners, and yeah.
Totally, yeah.
This is one of the good sides. Like, this is what we've seen good with Unity projects, that the community helps each other and comes with each other and develops one game.
Yeah, you can see here where it says that's the editor window to open scenes. Joint work by Thomas Chen and .squid on PRs 1 and 2, right? So, yeah.
Actually,
this one says initial work by Karag in 2024. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say someone was asking earlier when you showed your screen. They were asking about the scene tool, and they said, "Oh, is it built in Unity or is it custom?" So it's a custom tool made by the community, by .squid and Thomas Chen. So yeah, here you go. You got an answer.
Yeah. So this tool here, you mean?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. So actually, I revamped it with Addressables now. It's much simpler. Amel, you will be surprised once you look into the code. We didn't have to do the hack about the scene asset, and it doesn't require like a custom. It's very, very much simplified. Thanks to Addressables, I was very surprised.
Yeah.
So one more win.
One last question that I want to answer is the process open a PR, then make a forum thread, or the other way around? Well, I think that most of the tasks had threads open, but if not, just open the thread before making the PR, because people would discuss it, or if the PR is already there, you can discuss it with people, and then you can open the pull request and start working on that.
Yeah, definitely. As Chema said, like many cards, as you can see, they have a link. If not, please make it. Unless it's like a one-off, like it's a bug fix, right? That you exactly know how to fix it and there's no discussion to be done. You can do it like that. But we always suggest like open a new thread or find a thread that is kind of like the appropriate one and just post in there and go like, hey guys, what do you think? I would like to fix this thing or implement this thing, and you confront yourself.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's wrap up episode 8 of the journey for open projects. And we listen to the last song from the game, the last song that we have for now, which is for the Glade. Thank you so much. stay for the credits. Let's say the end credits. I'm gonna put the song. I'm gonna prepare the song now. Chema and Amel, any last thoughts? I always ask you this question.
Here, as always. Yeah.
So who wants to go first? Go on, Chema.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, as always. And come back in 2 weeks. I think it will be the 23rd. Always the new time at 5 p.m. Copenhagen
time, yes.
Yeah. And stay with us and participate to the threads. Come see us. Cheers.
Wait 1 second. I have the times. I know the times. So it's 5 p.m. in Central European, 7 p.m. in Moscow, 9:30 p.m. in Mumbai, Delhi, 1 a.m. in Tokyo, and then 8 a.m. in San Francisco and 11 a.m. in New York. These are my times.
Yeah.
The ones I noted down. So cool. See you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, thanks everyone. See you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And we're gonna play this music.